Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Bordenave, and I am the acting CEO of Spark Niagara, Spark Innovation Educational Center. And I'm joined here today by three amazing individuals, amongst many more guests, but three panelists that are Dan Lynch, Matt Anthony Guarasci, and Scott Ashley. And what we're here today is to talk about basically how to survive or how to handle your business in the COVID world, dealing with such things as lockdowns, digital transformation, and other tips and tricks to really ensure that these businesses are optimizing their presence and succeeding in whichever way they can. So the way the format's going to go today is I'm going to get each of our panelists to introduce themselves, short 2 or 3 minute blurb on what they do, who they are, and then we're going to go through a series of questions with each of them, followed by a roundtable discussion, and then we'll end with a 15-minute Q&A, or if not longer, from our audience. So that being said, I would like to first introduce a colleague of mine and one of the leads of SAFESITE Global, Mr. Dan Lynch.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Dan. Thanks for that. And just give you a little bit of background on myself, and then we can get into the meat of today. So trained as a chemical engineer, but I call myself a process engineer, and my background in the private sector has always been in what I call the sanitary industries. So this is all the food, pharmaceutical, and the biotech side of things. So, you know, for example, I was very happy to hear about Sanofi getting that new plant funding yesterday, because that's one of my major clients from years gone by. The sanitary industries per se have always been, you know, under the gun of good manufacturing practices, having a lot of controls on when they can and cannot open and operate. And I think that's a similar kind of operation to what's going on right now. So I'm very happy to present that as well. I also have quite a few years experience with the National Research Council of Canada with the Industrial Research Assistance Program. And certainly businesses these days are going to be looking more to government and government programs to help them through the difficulties that we face. So perhaps I can help you with that. Currently, well, after that, I've also worked in entrepreneurship and incubation with York University and Brock University. And now I'm calling myself a senior technology advisor and working with entrepreneurs like Dan Bordenave and the team at Spark to see what we can do to help out, not only through the pandemic, but also with post-pandemic opportunities to reopen and recover safely. So SAFESITE Global is all about that, having to look at what we call the 4 pillars: plan, protect, prevent, and prosper for businesses. So back to you, Dan.
Thank you very much, Dan. That was great, very thorough. Thank you very much. Next, I'll introduce Scott Ashley from Get Ready Global. Scott.
Hello, thanks, Dan, and welcome everybody. It's a great opportunity to be here, and I appreciate your time. I've been in the emergency services business pretty well for most of my life. I started off as a paramedic out in Alberta and down in Los Angeles, and worked and trained down there for a year, and came back to Ontario, where I'm from originally. Worked with Toronto EMS, and then for about 8 years I was a critical care flight paramedic. And during all those experiences as a medic, it seemed everywhere we went nobody was sure what to do, and so we got into the emergency management training and consulting business, developing procedures for organizations if they had a fire, a flood, a spill, a medical emergency, things like that. After 9/11, our business got really busy, and we developed a lot of procedures around different programs and training and so on. And in 2011, we started Get Ready, the company, with the idea. We had just finished doing the merger between Mississauga General and Credit Valley Hospitals to create Trillium Health Partners, and we created thousands of job action sheets or checklists. What does staff, security, all the way up to the executive suite, switchboard, facilities, whatever, when there's a fire, a flood, a spill, a bomb, a shooter, whatever. And the binders were like this thick. And I remember speaking to Mike Keenan, who was the director of risk, and I said, this is it. This is the last time we're doing this. We got to build an application that's on people's phone. And really, that's what we've tried to do, is to make it easy and quickly accessible. And so we do emergency plans, emergency operations centers for municipalities and other large organizations, business continuity planning, and pandemic planning. And years ago we did a lot around the H5N1. Most of us worked through SARS professionally, and now with the hospital plan we've been running, as I say to people, because of COVID, every business now needs an IPAC program. It's called Infection Prevention and Control. Hospitals have them, and now every workplace needs it. And I've been excited and pleased to be working with Dan and the team down at Spark and the other groups in the creation of the SAFESITE Global Consortium, and so that we can provide a full spectrum of services that organizations need and where to go and where to get it, without offering something and then going, well, geez, now the customer has to figure that piece out. So we've figured all these parts out, and it's now very easy to track and follow. And I think it'll save companies a lot of time and money getting prepared and getting safely back to work. So, thank you.
Perfect, Scott. Thank you very much. And lastly, I'd like to introduce Matt Anthony Guarasci.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. I greatly appreciate the opportunity to be here. So my name is Matt. I have the pleasure of working with many small businesses here in the local area, some tourism conglomerates, some social media influencers, and even some celebrities. So I own my own creative management company, which is called Invitco. We're a digital marketing agency at core, but as of this year, we've also have expanded into the influencer marketing realm. Prior to COVID, one of our large streams of revenue and cultural impact that we were really into was the event space. And we all know what has happened in terms of the event space with everything happening with the COVID-19 pandemic. It ceased to exist, which caused my business to truly pivot in a way that had to go virtually, no pun intended, virtually all online for the most part. So we've since then, we've always offered social media marketing. So what we specialize in is social media marketing, event planning, public relations. We work alongside. We're very fortunate to work alongside organizations such as Spark and Dan and the team there with the Small Business Enterprise Center. And what we do is we help bring unrealistic ideas to life. So if you have to, you want to make an impact you want to get a message out there. If you're a mom and pop shop that has this delicious pizza and you want to have everyone in the city know about it, we will come up with a unique and creative way to get that out there, get your message out there fast and effectively, utilizing social media. Or if you're an internet celebrity and you have 100,000 followers on your Instagram account, you probably want to know how to monetize it and how to make a living off that. So that's what we do, everything in a nutshell. So anything to do from the creative management space, social media, event planning, or celebrity PR, we're your team to call for that. So pleasure to be here, Dan, and we're really excited to dive into this.
Thank you. That's awesome. And the reason we chose these three panelists specifically is because they all have expertise in their own domain. So Dan Lynch, really focusing on government relations and understanding what the government is expecting from us in these COVID and lockdown situations. Scott Ashley from the healthcare perspective, and then Matt from the business perspective, since he's worked with a lot of businesses. And I just want to let full disclosure, I have a beat reporter waiting for Doug to make his announcement today. So if you see me looking at my phone, I'm expecting a text or two, or just checking Twitter to make sure that we can talk about the decision of potentially going into lockdown and how that's going to impact us in live time. So I guess we're doing great timing. I said at 1:15 was for questions, and it is 1:15. So
That's awesome.
That's awesome. A great start. So the first round of questions is going to be really to understand from the government, from the health, and from the business perspective, what's going on in COVID right now, what's it about a potential third lockdown, and just what do we know? What knowledge do we know? So the first question is going to be towards Matt. Now, Matt, I know you've been through thick and thin with a lot of these companies throughout the last few lockdowns. And considering now that we're going to be having an announcement today that potentially is going to be another 4-week lockdown, what have you been hearing from local organizations, and how have they been preparing to handle this third lockdown, and how are they pivoting to handle it?
That is a very great question, Dan. There's a whole whack of answers that go into answering something like this. First off, with a lot of our clients that we work with a lot of mom and pop shops too as well. So we're dealing directly with small businesses themselves. first thing that they're going to ask is, okay, what are we going to do in terms of staffing? How are we going to be able to save as much money as we can right now in order to reach our maximum profit given the current situation that we're in? The next stage with that is they're going to need a way to obviously market their product. And with everything happening, and a lot of people don't know this, but with all the government regulations changing, with daily updates happening from the government, we need to be able to get those messages out there faster than ever. And what's the number one channel of communication that everyone has access to from their phone? It's their social media platforms. So right now, we have been coming up with strategic plans and contingency plans for this exact reason to happen. So what we're doing in terms of advising anyone from like a local restaurant or a local retail store is that we have systems in place where you need to essentially transform your entire business model from going into an actual physical location, but now bringing it virtually all online. And some of the solutions of that could be creating an online store, like an online e-shop, transferring if you're a restaurant, if you have, obviously there will be very limited access to dine-in. You need to make sure that people can order items and everything online with ease. And thirdly, you have to make sure that whatever systems you do have in place we live in the convenience age, and they need to be accessible and easy to navigate all the time, no questions asked. And a lot of business owners, especially in Niagara, like we rely on 70% of, especially in Niagara, 70% of all of our jobs are catered towards the tourism industry. So that's 70% of our entire city has to pivot in this sense. And out of that 70%, do all of that 70% know how to use social media effectively? That's why it's absolutely imperative for all business owners that I would encourage this to talk with organizations like Spark, talk with organizations like the Small Business Enterprise Center with the City of Niagara Falls, to actually sit down and say, what are some of the resources that are available for me from a government and financial standpoint in terms of like maybe receiving some grant information, and what's also available for me in terms of like free community resources on a municipal level. So that would be some of my best advice moving forward. And besides all of this business talk, the most important thing to do, I think wholeheartedly when it comes to this pivot, is have a positive attitude. And when you talk with someone, try and make their day a little bit better, because that's going to make I'm a firm believer that's going to make a big difference when negotiating something or trying to help people in these certain times. We need to show empathy, understanding, and respect at this time in order to move forward together collectively. So I hope that answers your question.
No, I love the empathy, understanding, and respect. I think that's so important that some of us that perhaps are business owners understand, but a lot of us who aren't really need to have that empathy, respect, and understanding. Great. Do any of the other panelists want to comment on what Matt was saying?
I did want to ask Matt to maybe mention about the Digital Main Street program that he's been involved with. I think that's an important aspect. I know I'm going to be talking a little bit about other programs, but I think that's a really important one for the small businesses, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the Digital Main Street organization and with their strategic partnership with the OBIA committee, I would highly recommend anyone, whether you're a small business or a tourism conglomerate, or if you own a business in any way, there is extreme value just by engaging with it. So just to shed some light on that, Digital Main Street is an organization that gives business owners the opportunity to seek marketing resources completely for free, and they also give you the opportunity to apply for grants if your set business fits their certain criteria, obviously, of course. And with that being said, if you check on the provincial guidelines or the provincial websites, there is also various other grants that are available too, like the Small Business Support Grant. There's a new tourism grant that is coming up. But in terms of going digital right now, I would highly recommend everyone go check out digitalmainstreet.ca for free marketing resources, complete their digital media assessment, and then that assessment will show you your areas of improvement that you can work on with your business, and it will show you that your strengths that you're doing too as well. And then everything encompassed in there is just a phenomenal one-stop shop for everything to do with digital marketing resources. So yes, I would definitely recommend everyone to go check that out.
Perfect. And then we'll dive a little bit deeper into some of those resources from the Digital Main Street opportunity a little bit later in the second round of questions. Does Scott, do you have anything to mention on what Matt was talking about? And have you heard of anything from any businesses and how they're planning on pivoting or staying open or just surviving in this third lockdown?
Yeah, no, it's tough. I think, you know, the big thing is to keep a positive attitude for sure. Recognize that it is going to be, you know, by the sounds of it, you know, approximately 4 weeks or so. This isn't hugely surprising given the, you know, the condition and the amount of people in our ICUs and so on right now. So again, it's another big holiday, and it's where people mix and bubbles, and I call it the bubble bath, you know, where all these different bubbles come together, and you know, suddenly we have all these new cases. So I'm not surprised, but I think people need to keep a positive attitude. And, you know, it just comes back to the fundamentals again. It comes back to making sure you wear a mask, making sure you use proper hand hygiene. This is basic infection control protocols for preventing the spread of or transmission of diseases. And the best thing, in hospitals, paramedics have been doing it, you know, for 100 years. It's washing your hands, keeping distance, and keeping a mask. And you know, and I think we can really prevent a lot of exposures just by doing those simple things.
Absolutely. Perfect. So now we're going to go to our second question, and that's focused at Dan Lynch. So Dan, from what I've been hearing, it seems that the rules and regulations are a little bit different during this lockdown compared to last. Can you speak on some of these main differences from what you've been hearing, doing your own research, that these businesses can expect in the coming weeks? And further to that point, is there any other financial compensation available from government organizations to help businesses through this third lockdown?
Sure, Dan, thanks. So one of the things, though, that I think is actually an improvement this time, and I know that 4 weeks of lockdown is a terrible detriment to business. However, the fact that we're all in it together, the fact that the lockdown will be province-wide, I think that's going to mean that we don't have to worry about the boundaries from one region to another. We don't have to be that, you know, concerned about what side of Steeles we're shopping on in Toronto or York region. And the fact that the 34 different healthcare units across the province will all be pulling together with the same type of restrictions and stipulations. Essentially, the lockdown that we're looking at right now is going to put us all regions into what's called into the gray zone, and that obviously Toronto and York region or Toronto in particular, and Peel have been in that for quite a long time already. In fact, I heard just this morning that their lockdown is the longest in North America. Right.
Since November,
Yeah.
I do believe. Yep.
Wow.
So the fact that we're going into it for 4 weeks along the similar lines means that, you know, we're all going to be suffering the same way, but also working together to get out of it. Scott mentioned a really important part, and that is the burden on the ICU. That really is the original reason for the shutdowns and lockdowns we went to. Currently, I think the count today was 430 COVID patients in ICU, and that represents 25% of ICU beds in Ontario. They're saying that if we don't do the lockdown, that we could have 700 to 800 within the next 2 weeks. So they're very much afraid of doing that. So I think the idea of working together is a really important concept. And as Matt said, that includes looking for the assistance that the businesses need to keep going. So you mentioned the Small Business Center, and I know we have Michael on in our room here as well from the Small Business Center of Niagara Falls. You've got the other the business improvement associations. You've got the industrial associations. All of this working together, I think, is an extremely important aspect of what we have to do. Sharing best practices along those lines, being able to do it along the same lines is important for not only maintaining your business, but also maintaining the safety and health of your customers, yourself, and your employees. And I think that's right at the top of the line, what we have to do. It's no good having your business open if you're ill and your customers are ill, because you ain't going to get no business that way. So along terms, in terms of grants and loans that are available, there's a number of groups you can look at. I would recommend, though, if you're unsure of how to do that, certainly you can talk to any of us. We're happy to help with that. But talk to your small business center, talk to the, go online, look at Industry Canada. That's a good site for federal grant opportunities. If you look at the BDC, that's good towards the business loans. In Ontario, the Ontario centers are very significant in terms of seeing what's available for that. For business relief, the Ontario government website is a very good one for that. If you're having any difficulty with that, I would look to the Chambers of Commerce to help you walk through that. Also, the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses, albeit it's a lobby group, but it's also very solid in terms of the information they provide online for these various grants. And as I said, repayable loans is either forgivable or repayable loans. You have to work out the nuances of that. But there is a lot of help out there for that. But I think the most important part of the help is your next door neighbors in Main Street, as Matt was talking about, the other businesses that you're involved with, your supply chain. Let's see how we can work together on that to make sure that everyone is pulling together on that. And we're only the four of us are only a email or a phone call away as well, so we're happy to point you in the right direction.
Thank you very much, Dan. And it's funny you mentioned supply chain. Let's hope another boat doesn't get stuck in the Suez Canal.
Yeah.
But that brings me to my next question, and this one's going to be directed to Scott. So we heard that there is a lot of opportunities out there. We heard there's pivoting opportunities out there, which we'll explore a bit later. Now, Scott, I'm going to kind of turn the gears towards the health perspective here. So it seems that the biggest concern right now is the variant of COVID and how it's primarily targeting, if you will, for lack of better words, younger populations. So how do you control the spread of these variants? I mean, some of the people are saying double masking, things like that. And how do you ensure that your business avoids having breakouts, especially of the variant? Now, I heard of a cool technology I maybe want to touch on. It's called Poppy. Maybe if you have some information on that, but with our guest. But how serious are these variants? And how do you control your organization to make sure that you're limiting the amount of variant in the organization? You don't have as many breakouts.
The COVID-19 disease, the virus can create variants based on geography, and we've heard about the ones from Brazil, the UK, the South African one, this one, that one, and there's going to be many, many more. And naturally these viruses will morph and change over time, and there'll be new variants or new versions with a slightly different structure or RNA structure to it. And sometimes that can make the disease more susceptible, more easy to be transmitted. It may be more serious or less serious, as these viruses change and evolve. Now, in this case, the variant, that are out there now, they seem to be more transmissible, easier, in other words, for people to catch the disease. And so, again, it comes back to the basic principles. You have to make sure you're wearing a mask. You have to make sure that you're washing properly. You have to be patient. If you're in a grocery store or, a retail place and someone's coming down the aisle, don't squeak past them. Wait. And let them go by, and keep your distance and keep your mask on, and then continue. If you're going to the store, whatever you're buying, it's going to be longer. You're going to have to be patient and wait, and you're going to have to be in line, at the checkout and so on, and let the cashiers have the time to clean off the conveyor or clean off the Interact machine and things like that. So we want to as touchless as possible as we can. And it's safe practices, and we can see what's happened in certain cases. People get frustrated, they get tired of it, and then they end up assembling and not following the rules, and suddenly we have a larger outbreak. So it's discipline, it's understanding that we're in a pandemic. This is a major medical disaster of the century kind of thing. So this is hugely impacting everybody. And I think people need to not just think about the moment, but they need to think about their family at home, their colleagues, their workers, their friends, their neighbors. and make sure that they're taking the precautions. And I think that's all we can hope to do with these variants right now, is just understand that they are easier to transmit, or some of them are, and as a result, we just need to be really diligent in our procedures, in our self-care and cleaning and disinfecting and so on.
Yeah, and it's interesting you bring up that it's easier to transmit. There was a report that came out of Alberta today, specifically Calgary, that they're finding that a lot of the COVID variants are being transmitted outdoors, outside. So can you touch up on that and how important it is to be vigilant on ensuring that you're doing proper safety outdoors?
So part of the notion was that COVID was a droplet-based disease, and that when we coughed or sneezed or whatever, and you've all seen this as little pieces of saliva or whatever come out of your mouth, they will, maybe land on the surface, because of gravity within 6 feet, hence the 6 foot, 2 meter rule. Now it seems that some of the variants, and even COVID itself is debated, it may have microscopic particles that actually may remain airborne longer, and therefore may stay, and therefore the notion of 6 feet or 2 meters may not be enough. That's why it's important to be patient, to give people the space they need, to be wearing a mask. They've gone to the level 3 mask because they want more protection for people. So taking the time to put it on, is important. And because it's not just you coughing something out, but potentially the better mask you have, the more difficult it's going to be for you to inhale or get access. You see a lot of people wearing visors. They're not a mask, but they're a great tool to at least prevent some airborne things. Also, probably one of the biggest ways that the diseases are spread is people get something on their hands, they don't use the hand sanitizer, and they touch their face, they rub their eye, they scratch their nose, they eat something, and bingo, we have transmission into the body, either through the eye, through the nose, through the mouth, through eating. And so again, the visor is a great tool to remind the person wearing the visor not to touch their face.
That's great. And one thing I've noticed too is a lot of stores are kind of doing one-way aisles. Is that to prevent the crossover from one human to another? And
Correct.
Should you be really following those as appropriate? Because sometimes I go to the grocery store, I need to get something quick, and I'm like, oh, I got to go the wrong way just to get something. But now that we know that this variant is a lot easy to transmissible, do we have to follow these protocols more diligently?
We certainly have to be more diligent. The other thing is, a lot of stores, we see they put the arrows on the floor, and people with their shopping cart don't see the arrows, and they get halfway down the aisle and realize that they've gone down the wrong way. Listen, if you're at the other end and you see someone coming down, wait. Mm-hmm. Let them finish, and or go down a different aisle and come back or something, but don't try to pass them. And it's this closer contact, even though the time isn't that long, you're putting yourself in closer contact with someone else who may be wearing their mask properly or not. They're coughing or who knows, right? Yeah. So I think it's, you try to pay attention to the aisles for sure, but obviously if someone's in the aisle, either in front of you and stopped or coming the other way, step back, give them the time to and Matt, to your point, be patient, and, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable when you get home that you didn't, squeak past 10 different people and stuff like that in the store.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's almost counterintuitive the way we were taught to be like, oh, let's be efficient. I need to get things done as quick as possible so I get more time at home. But in reality, you're in lockdown anyways. What do you got to get home for? Yes. Take time and keep yourself safe. Dan, I saw that you raised your hand if you want to touch on that point.
Yeah, the other aspect of what we're facing right now is the fact that, credit seeing Francisco's little sticker there for this idea. We all have to get our vaccinations done. We have to get to that stage where we've got the first level of our immunity in place. And then we have to realize that, we will conquer the pandemic, but it looks like COVID will be endemic for us, just like the flu is. So we have to, first of all, get ourselves vaccinated, get the 2 shots. The latest statistic was that it seems like Pfizer's, because that's where they got most of the data, Pfizer's good for about 6 months. Great for 6 months after the second dose. So, when you're looking at the concept of variants and perhaps booster shots as being something that is going to happen to us for forever, then we first have to get the vaccines into us and then get ready to face this on a regular basis.
Thank you. Thanks, Dan.
And just to add to that point, it's interesting. 100 years ago, we had the Spanish flu. It killed more people than the Second World War and the First World War combined, kind of thing. Then what they were able to do is develop flu shots that made getting the flu less serious.
Yeah.
And so if we can get the COVID shots to make the critical, signs and symptoms a thing of the past, and okay, so you have a runny nose, and today with the flu, people know, okay, someone has the flu, well, don't come into work. Oh, I caught the flu, well, I'm staying home for a couple of days. Generally, people don't panic and think they're going to die and they need to get in the ICU. Sure, we have a vulnerable population, or very elderly people can, get pneumonia and stuff like that secondary to the flu, but if we can get the COVID virus to be not so serious because of the vaccines, and then the annual, maybe a COVID shot or a booster or whatever, then we can start to normalize, and people can start to get back out again. They're not afraid of ending up in the ICU. They may be sick for a couple of days, but it will start to normalize much the way the seasonal flu has. So that's a hope, and I know that there's a lot of medical thinking around that kind of capabilities in going forward. So,
Perfect, Scott. Okay, great. So that was the first round of questions where we discussed what we know about COVID, what we know about the lockdowns, and what we know the businesses are doing. Second round is basically going to be focused on how your business can succeed, or at least stay status quo during the COVID world and survive this next lockdown. So again, I'll bring the first question back to Matt. So Matt, you've been working with a lot of these companies on having a digital presence. Now, how important is it in this world, and not just COVID, but in future generations, to have a digital presence for the success of your business?
That's a great question, Dan. I'm going to try to word this by making it super relatable for everyone. In terms of, if you don't have a Facebook, if you're a business and you don't have a Facebook or Instagram or a LinkedIn, do you even exist right now at this point in time? But like, if someone wants to go ahead and find out what you do or learn more about you, if you have no website, if you have no Instagram, if you have absolutely no way that people can see what it is that you're doing, like, everyone on earth practically has a cell phone or has access to technology. If there is, I'm talking zero presence on that. If you're a business owner, that is absolutely detrimental to your business. So it would be like, I can't even think of an example as to what it would be like maybe about like 40 years ago or something like that. But it is super essential to be on there in any sort of way, shape, or form. The hard part with social media and what's kind of the nature of the beast is you have to post quality content, like high quality content, consistently. That's the name of the game with that. And what I always advise clients, or advise anyone, like, if because business owners have a million things on the go, they're being pulled in a million different directions, is that it's best for you to post anywhere between minimum 3 times a week on your social media platforms, just to stay relevant, just to stay up to date in terms, if someone wants to find out what sort of special you have going on, if you're a restaurant, or what services you provide on your business, if they see that you're active online over the course of the last day or 48 hours, they're going to probably be more engaged to look at you, because they see that you're active, you're doing stuff, things must be happening. If you're a social media agency and your job is to service businesses, but you haven't posted on your own account in 3 years, people are going to be like, oh, okay, this is, you know what I mean? It's a catch 22. So my advice for every single person who has a business is, make sure you just have a presence established, make sure it's 100% recognized, and do your best to post minimum 3 times a week. And that could be as simple as, like, I hope you all are having a good day. Here's a picture of my morning coffee. Wow, that took me 4 seconds to do, So that's just a small part when it comes to that. But In terms of actual like tools for businesses who are looking to kind of like excel their rate, there's one tool that I utilize that is an absolute lifesaver, and it helps out businesses in any sort of regard. It's called Canva, and if you were to look it up, Canva, if you were to look up Canva online, they provide all the mapped out templates that are required to post on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Every single photo or every single piece of content that you want to get out there, they have templates that are already predetermined on there that you can utilize at your disposal, where you can either change an image or change a picture just to stay relevant out there. So if there's one tip that I would say is, yes, have a presence and look into an app like Canva to help stay relevant.
That's great news. And Matt, I'm going to play devil's advocate here, be a business, be like, there's a lot of rumors out there. There's perhaps myth or truth that marketing is a very expensive tool to do. And I want you just to debunk that and tell me that essentially it's something that you can do for free, right? So
yeah,
please, expand more on me as a business owner saying, I don't have money to spend on digital marketing. So how am I supposed to do this?
That's great. And my rebuttal to something like that was be like, great. Do you have time to go to the bathroom? Do you have 15 minutes to go get a coffee? Of course you do during the day. Then you have enough time to market your business.
Well, exactly. And Matt, I know there's a lot of other platforms, and I'm not saying one or another, but one that I've used in the past is something called later.com, where you schedule your posts to go at different times throughout the week. So if you're sitting on a couch on Sunday afternoon watching TV, you can actually be creating social media posts to be sent out to the wind. That's a free platform to use. So can you talk about some of those strategies and scheduling apps?
Absolutely, 100%. So one thing this was not available, and Facebook and Instagram, for those of you that don't know, they're owned by the same company. Facebook owns Instagram, of course. Now there is an option, and this must have been done, I would have to say, probably within the last like monthish or so, where you now have the ability to schedule posts on Facebook and Instagram in the Facebook scheduling tool. That's it. So you can schedule for up to, I think the limitation is 28 days in advance right now. But if you were to take anywhere between 30 to 40 minutes of your day and you want to prep 2 weeks worth of posts, that's 6 posts right there. You take some time, like you said, if you're watching TV on Sunday night or Friday night right before you're, about to hang out with your, a virtual hangout with your buddy to be safe. you know what I mean? You could go on Facebook and schedule your post for, say, Monday morning at 9 a.m. if you know that's when your ideal demographic is up and active looking at your time. So it's just what I find is interesting about this is that business, like if and especially if you're plus 50 and you didn't grow up with the technology like I did, you know what I mean? Like my demographic and my generation grew up with this, so we know this like the back of our hand. But if someone who is a 50-year-old business owner, we talk with them all the time. We're like, oh my gosh, we have no idea how to use this. Like, this is so difficult. So what I do for any person who seeks out free consultation services, and I just give them a basic step-by-step of like, this is how you post, and I can break it down for you in about an hour. This is how you schedule your post, and this is how you get people to engage with your post. That's all it is. The more, think of social media, Facebook or Instagram, as like a reward system. The more that you engage with the app, the more that app is going to reward you to see other people, because they know that there's advertising opportunities there. They know that there's eyes, there's attention. And we live in the intention community nowadays. So wherever that attention goes, that's where your business is going to do well in terms of brand awareness. And it's also going to do well in terms of monetary compensation.
Perfect.
So I hope that answers your question.
And just quick follow-up, Matt, if you can just touch 1 minute quick on this. You said something about demographics. Now, there are a lot of social media platforms. You got TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. How do you know, based on your business, which platform to use to target the demographic you're looking for?
Absolutely. Some tips right now that I can probably provide access to. If your demographic is anywhere 30 years old, male and female, younger, you want to be on Instagram. If your demographic is 30 plus, you want to be on Facebook. If it's a cross mix between both, you want to be on both. LinkedIn, you want to be on as a working professional all the time. So 100% be on LinkedIn, absolutely, at all times. Twitter is not, unless you're a political figure or anything to do in like the news or media relations agency, I would advise going there. but it's not. I wouldn't say it's absolutely detrimental to your business. And then TikTok, the way of what I have my finger on the pulse with a lot of like these media agencies with like Gary Vaynerchuk, what they're all posting about. They say that the future and what it is right now, we live in the attention span community. You need to capture someone's attention within 15 seconds, or they're moving on to the next post. So short-term creative content is the future, and if you can do that on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, you're going to be in great shape. And the hard part is you just got to stay consistent with it. That's it.
Exactly. Great. Thank you. Just in lieu of time, Dan and Scott, we'll move on to you guys. So Dan, Scott, seems to be a lot of different methods to protecting your employees and customers during lockdown, post-lockdown. Can you touch up on some of the things and tools and resources you should use? And Scott, I really want to talk to you about Get Ready and how you've helped businesses during COVID and some of the tools that you guys have. So Dan, I'll start first with you. If you know of any organizations that really help businesses, I want to touch up on that and tools and resources, and then move on to Scott, and then we'll end up with some questions from the audience.
Yeah, I'll make it quick to make sure we get some good time for Get Ready. But I'm going to put my process engineer hat on and just say that what the businesses really have to do is to go through that process of what's necessary to keep your employees and the public healthy and safe. And so, as I mentioned before, we have the process that I'm looking at is what we call the plan, protect, prevent, and prosper pillars on that. And if you look at that, that's really a good process methodology for walking yourself through a safe business. You have to start by planning, do the inspection, find out what your business is doing well or doing not well. Do an assessment, and if you're not comfortable doing it yourself, find somebody that can help you with that. What you need is a good trusted source for that, and we're looking to put SAFESITE together as that trusted source for you. In terms of protect is the first level of that, and that's where certainly from a people point of view, Get Ready's online screening, and Scott will talk about that, is very important for that. You've also got training, which is extremely valuable for your employees to make sure they know what's going on. Certainly PPE for the personnel that is necessary as well. From a placing point of view, places, you need barriers, you need partitions, signage. And Scott, I know you'll talk about passive and active approaches, so go for that. And then certainly for outbreaks, if you have any kind of a problem with an outbreak, disinfection, not cleaning, but disinfection is an extremely important part of that. And we use a company called Steriplus in our consortium for that. For the barriers and so on, we have a company called Protect Your Office that provides that kind of tool as well. When it comes down to prevention, well, obviously from an individual point of view, that's where the vaccinations and so on come in. But in terms of the site itself, regular dosing by somebody like Steriplus, or improved HVAC installations that includes disinfection, and a company called Nerva that we work with has got some very interesting proprietary products for that as well. And smart solutions for being able to control ebb and flow of personnel, including the ingress and egress into bathrooms. We have another company that we work with called Infield Solutions that works in that field as well. So there's a lot of them out there, but what I think is very important is to have a trusted source of those particular opportunities, products, and services. And certainly one trusted source that we rely on is Scott and Get Ready. So over to you, Scott.
And just to intervene quickly, Dan, you talk a lot about SAFESITE Global, this consortium that you're working with. Now, what's the benefit of using a consortium as opposed to just going on Google and finding my own PPE or my own fogging? What would be the benefit of SAFESITE Global?
Well, the big words there are trust and validation. We have the opportunity to have a trusted service that provides the full range from plan to prosper on that assessment to installation side that we can do. The validation, these are tools that have been in place for quite a lengthy period of time. There's a lot of customer validation for that. We can lead you from one area to another in terms of what you need and don't need. Obviously, the business case has to be made for each and every opportunity there. So the
Perfect.
trust and validation, I think, are the two important parts there.
And do they get anything for using the services of the consortium, so that people know?
Say again, sorry?
Do any of the businesses that use the consortium services, do they get any, how do customers know that this building is safe?
Well, what we're trying to do with that is a recognition factor. I think people need to be recognized for the effort they're making. So it's important to be able to show to your clients, to your customers, and to your employees that you are taking it seriously to keep them healthy. So we have a SAFESITE recognition sticker that will go on your door, not unlike TripAdvisor, for example, to show to people that you are taking care of business. And I mean that literally. It's not just a Randy Bachman song. It's actually what we're trying to do. So the recognition is there for them once they've taken the steps to make their business safe.
Thanks. Now, Scott, about 4 minutes, if you can summarize what Get Ready does and the active and passive checking.
Sure. No, thanks, Dan. And just quickly, we because we've been in the pandemic planning with hospitals for so long, companies just need an infection prevention control program, really. And we find that because so few companies have that public health or medical expertise or critical care, they're just not familiar with, I don't know which mask to buy. I don't know, we get calls every day from VPs and owners of businesses going, have we got this right? They've worked on something or they bought some product. We had a group there a little while ago. They got a quote for some PPE, and I think it was like about $48,000. And the guy called me and said, this seems a little high. Can you check this? And we did. And a couple of the items weren't the best probably they should have got, and we ended up changing that. And at the end of the day, I think they saved about $13,000 by the group that we recommended them to use. Well, geez, that's a lot of money to a lot of companies, and PPE is something that you're going to be buying for months and months and months. So just getting the right stuff, but it's the what do I do kind of, it's the procedure. So we have a high level policy. Okay, we're in lockdown. All right, so you had a delivery driver with your company, for example, and they phone in and just say, I've just tested positive. And you're like, oh my God, now what do I do? And it's not what do you do? What exactly do you do is the question. And what does the employee do? And what does the manager do? And what does the employer do? And who's calling public health? And who's calling the Ministry of Labor or WSIB or this or that? Do we quarantine? Do we not quarantine? Do we isolate instead of quarantining? Do we deep clean a certain area? And people just aren't sure of the exact procedures. This is it's a medical disaster and they're not familiar. So we provide those exact procedures when it comes to screening. People can take their QR code, they can stick it on, off their phone, they can fill it in. We've got a tool that gives a company, it's $20 a month based on the number of managers and unlimited number of staff, customers, vendors, contractors, suppliers, whatever entering the site. You can have multiple sites. You can track everybody. It's paperless. People don't want to pick up a pen and fill out a clipboard and stuff like that, And then if you do have someone who shows up positive, you can backtrack and work with public health instantly. It saves about 3 days of notification. Well, in 3 days, half the people who have been, contaminated or come in contact have now talked to their friends or families, other businesses, and suddenly we have a much bigger outbreak. Our goal is to stop these spreads, these outbreaks, and so that's part of the screening. Now we see that, with lockdowns, if anyone's allowed in, it's going to be a controlled, active screening versus a passive screening. A passive screening is something like you see maybe at a grocery store, where there's a big, list on the side of the wall, and it says, do you have a cough or this or that or whatever? And someone says, do you answer yes? And you sort of walk in. Active screening is when the organization actually records first name, last name, phone number, email, and whether they have those signs and symptoms. And it saves hundreds of hours for the company. So I think that's, train your staff, get certified, demonstrate the employer's compliant, the staff feel safe, and customers are confident. That's our goal.
Perfect. Thank you very much. we have 5 minutes left for any questions. We can go along. Does anybody have any direct questions for either of the panelists here? If not, I have some. So perfect. If you do, you can just unmute yourself and just speak up. If not, I will give it a minute and I will ask the question. Okay. Doesn't seem that there's any direct questions. So Scott, this one goes back to you. You say $20 a month. Now I'm a business and I'm saying, well, why would I pay $20 a month? How am I going to financially benefit from paying $20 a month for COVID?
Right. So instead of paying your manager to sort out the names of everyone every day and gather that information or follow it up, it's all done by each staff person, by each contractor. You can have a QR code in your email, on your website, on a poster at the door or the entrances into the workplace. Anyone coming in can fill that out. If they don't have a smartphone, maybe the person they're with does, and they can fill it out twice. Maybe they could phone in or phone the office, or at reception if someone's coming in, they could gather that information. So it just saves so much time and response. And if you do have, someone who tests positive, which, let's face it, is happening everywhere, the likelihood is you're going to have someone test positive. You're going to have to call public health. You're going to have to start contact tracing. At a push of a button, you have the last week or 2 weeks of everybody, customers, contractors, staff. So, for $20 a month, it's an easy one. Plus, they get the safety plan, which is the other procedures, and they love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Does anybody want to comment on basically what we're finding right now is that in order to save more money in the end, it's taking these little steps. And one thing I wanted to kind of just put a little plug in here before we go is that really, if you're running a business in the Niagara region, I really suggest you reach out to your small business enterprise center or your regional innovation center, or even us here at Spark Innovation Educational Center, to just get some help, just to talk about your business, just to talk about strategies. And we offer all this for free. We give free consultations all the time, especially during COVID. And the amount of ideas that can come out and things, I mean, let's be honest, you're a business owner. You may have a business partner. There's only 2 minds working on this project, right? Or on your venture. The more minds you get into it, the greater the outcomes can be, and things that you perhaps haven't even thought about can really come to light. So I highly encourage that you reach out to these organizations to get some help and just to empower yourself as a business owner. I know for myself, I run my own business on the side. I made it during the first or second lockdown. I made sure that I'm going to watch YouTube videos and after hours to focus on marketing techniques that I didn't know, how to do search engine optimization, how to make a Facebook post, how to do an Instagram post. There's so much free content out there. It's just take the time. And if you empower yourself as an entrepreneur to know as many different sectors in your business, marketing, legal, anything like that, then you're going to be more in tune with your business. And you're going to be able to relate to your employees more and understand if a project is not met by this deadline. Well, maybe it was a very complex project, but since you have marketing experience, you would know that, okay, I should give realistic expectations to my employees. So I highly encourage any entrepreneur, any business owner to really just on your downtime, just learn, reach out to organizations. We're all here to help each other. We all want to get past this. We all want to survive and get back to a normal world where we're all prospering and succeeding. So that is it for the event today. I want to thank everybody for joining us, especially our panelists, Mr. Dan Lynch, Mr. Matt Anthony Guarasci, and Mr. Scott Ashley. Thank you so much. Really insightful. And I think that this warrants perhaps a follow-up webinar in 4 weeks when we find out more information, if we're going to open up again to really dive deep into different things that we can do to open up successfully. So thank you guys very much. If anybody has any any questions, please email me directly. You can do it at info@sparkniagara.com. Any questions, and we will relate to you there.
And just one last thing, I did put in the chat the link to the government website where you can get the information on what's available and what the different colors mean as we move from lockdown into red and different things. So all the way down from schools and daycares and workplaces and performing arts all the way down. So everyone can, it's on the Ontario government, ontario.ca, and it's all about, COVID response and stuff. But it's a really, sometimes they're not that user friendly. This is a very user friendly site. So
perfect. And then one thing I would say too is that if you want to reach out to Scott, please look up Get Ready. If you want to reach out to Dan for SAFESITE Global, please look at SAFESITE Global on Google or reach directly to us and we will connect you with them. And good luck, everybody. Have a great holiday weekend, and we will see everybody hopefully soon. But be strong, stay safe, and let's get through this together, everybody.